What's going on tonight, everybody? It is 8 p.m. on the East Coast. That means it's time for Proper Royals Live. Thanks for joining me tonight. I got Adam Wickens on the show. Wickens, Wicked Reptiles. I practice that a lot to make sure that I didn't mess it up. It's difficult to roll off the tongue that way. I decided to try this whole microphone thing out again in the view. I don't know if you know, it's completely superfluous. This is a studio microphone. You can hear me fine here, hear me fine here. I don't know. Maybe I got to have a microphone in the camera angle to make. We'll see what Adam thinks. He's pretty big time on the YouTube. We'll see what he thinks. We're gonna have a fun show tonight. I promise you. If you're not familiar with Adam Wickens or haven't spent some time watching his channel, super passion for the animals, but I can attest in person that he's a very kind dude, was very generous with his time when we met in person and now coming on the show. He's got 270,000 subscribers on YouTube. Like, that's a big number on any platform, but on YouTube, man, that's a huge number. So we're going to dive into the business end of that, how that happened. And like, it's one thing to get like the big clicks or get a big name, so to speak. But I also think like he's done what I want to do. I want to learn from that. I want to see what there is to, what to glean from that we can all learn from. So like that's also what excites me. Like, I don't really get caught up in any of the celebrity stuff, and he doesn't handle himself that way anyhow. So I don't think that that's the angle whatsoever. But I want to see the life experience. I want to hear the story. I want to figure out how it was done or learn more about it. So we're going to dive into that. We'll talk animals as well. And we also have one other thing in common that he might not be aware of. He's a professional comedian. I'm not a comedian. Just because you laugh at me doesn't make me a comedian. I say I have jokes too. I'm a professional musician, though, and so it'll be kind of neat. Maybe we'll compare some stage notes and performance notes and things like that. So a couple very, very quick announcements. We're going to move through these. Adam's a busy dude, and like I say, he's been very kind and generous with his time. So I'm going to knock everything out as quick as I can on these announcements, and we'll get right to the show. I got two big business deals going on. One is Proper Royals related, and one is not. But neither of them are final, so it doesn't really do any good to talk anymore about them. But I'm busy with that. If you wonder why sometimes I don't post as much as I should or whatever it might be, I got stuff going on, If you haven't already, please check out my LinkTree link down below. Also in the description, you'll find Adam Wickens' LinkTree link also. He's got a ton of media, but I hope you check mine out as well. Everything from Patreon, Morph Market, my email direct, all that. You can get a hold of me through LinkTree. Next week, coming up on the show, let me check the calendar. We got Robbie Jensen from RGen Reptiles up in South Carolina. 2 weeks, we got Kai from Lucas Landon Royals. He will be on. And then in 3 weeks, I'm leaving. I might fly solo. It's been since January that I've done a solo show. Maybe it's time again. Hopefully I have some big announcements of some of these business dealings going on. But if not, solo show is kind of a fun time to catch up. And I also still like to just make sure that I can do it. At the end of the day, if nobody else shows up or a guest bails, this show is going to go on. You guys know that. So we'll see. Maybe I'll get a guest. And then on May 30th, Gray Family Reptiles. The Grays will be back from their trip, and we will dive into that trip with them, their good deeds. And I want to hear all about their trip to Africa and their ball python endeavors as well. Real quick shout out to Jeremy Baud down at Baud's Exotic Reptiles. What a good dude. Like one of the first guys that really just started looking out for me in this industry. And he just gave me a phone call today just to catch up, hang out, see what's going on and check in on me. So it's always cool to have people like that in the industry looking out for you. I also got to give a shout out in a second to them. We'll catch that up. We got to say hello to Henrik down in Key Largo. If you're watching, thanks so much. I hope you get a kick out of it. I'll see you on Sunday. We'll have a beer and talk business, right? And last but not least, if you're in the North Florida area and you want to see me live, see me perform and play music, I'll be playing this Friday night at Finn McCool's Irish Pub at 8 p.m. Both of these shows are a duo, myself on guitar and vocals with a fiddle player. And Saturday night, May 6th, the new venue, I'll be at Cowtown Tavern in Jacksonville, Florida at 7 p.m. Both of those are 3-hour shows. I hope to see you out there. Adam Wickens, I was going to say by total luck, with the help of Jeremy and Holly at Snakes for the Memories, I was introduced to Adam Wickens at the Kissimmee Repticon. Out of the blue, I'll let him tell the story of how he ended up there. I think I know it, but actually I don't know 100%. And it was one of those moments I was like, I'm pretty sure I recognize this guy. And then you go through like your checklist. You're like, is he a vendor from one of the previous shows? Have I met him before? Oh, maybe I've seen him on social media. And then it was like, ding, ding, ding. Yeah, okay, I got it. I've connected the dots here. But like I say, really generous with his time. We have not spoken about social media or a YouTube channel other than me mentioning that I have one. It'd be nice to have him on. So we're going to dive into all of that tonight. A very special thanks to Snakes for the Memories. Check out their logo. Their links are down below in the description as a sponsor of the show. And let's pay some bills really quick, and then we'll get Adam on. Please check out Redline Shipping, Cold Blooded Cafe. You'll see the promo codes on both of those. If you haven't used them, I highly recommend those companies. I was a customer before I ever got into business with them. And then, as I said, Jeremy and Holly from Snakes for the Memories, and Chris at BNS Reptilia, also a longtime sponsor of the show, sells a ton of different species of snakes. He's going at this big time, and he's also the Pennsylvania distributor of the Chipper. Check out his links down below as well. I'm going kind of quick tonight because I want to get to Adam, but those folks truly make this show possible, and they make it possible for me to give up some time where I might otherwise have to dedicate myself to working or something other than this show. So I really appreciate the sponsors. Huge thanks to them. Yeah. So how about for the first time ever, please welcome from Niagara Falls, Ontario, to the Proper Royal stage, Adam Wickens. How about that?
Hey, Adam, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for being here. I know you could probably be a million other places right now. So it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much. So I alluded to it. How in the world did you end up at the Kissimmee Repticon at my booth? What in the world?
So I just decided that I was going to do, a trip to Florida, because in Niagara Falls, it's really, really cold for most of the year. And I hate this climate. So I decided, all right, I'm going to go to Florida and try to find some alligators and do some collabs and stuff. And I didn't tell anybody I was going. It was like the secret thing just for Patreon. And then one of my friends from Orlando has said, hey, there's this thing in Kissimmee. You should go to this expo. And I had nothing to do during the day. So then I just kind of showed up and didn't. Of course, that happens right now. And no, I didn't tell anybody about it. And so I just kind of showed up and started talking to everybody who wanted to talk to me.
Yeah, it was really cool. Like I say, I don't think you realized at the time, but like I said, I was trying to connect the dots, but like, it was cool. You weren't like, oh, look at me or blah, blah, blah. It was like we were just hanging out talking snakes, and Jeremy introduced us, which was real cool. And I saw, speaking of being very, very cool, I saw you wore their T-shirt in your most recent video. How cool was that, man?
Yeah, so I met them. Like, I didn't know who they were before, and then they just kind of started to talk to me about their business and what they were breeding and stuff. And they're like, hey, take a shirt. And anytime anyone gives me a shirt, well, if you're going to be nice enough to give me one of your pieces of merch, I'm going to wear it in a video. So I did. The next video I shot after Florida. Yeah,
I've said it's there. It's true. And I think that's cool that you're helping people out and looking out for others in the industry like that. So look, for people that don't know, give us the elevator pitch or your business pitch of what do you do? Who are you?
So I'm Adam Wickens from Niagara Falls, Canada. Basically, I'm a stand-up comedian, and that's how I got into this in the first place. Promoter that I worked for said, hey, you're in between jobs and you have, all this time and this personality and a camera and a bunch of reptiles. You should start a YouTube channel. So I did. That was 4.5 years ago. And my whole goal with the channel is to take people who maybe were afraid of snakes or didn't like snakes and reptiles in general and introduce them and make it friendly for kids and also the parents. So it's not dumbed down enough that an adult doesn't want to watch it, and it's not grown up enough that a kid can't watch it either.
Nice combo there, man. 4.5 years. Okay. So had you had social media experience before? Did you have a process or a methodology that you tackled this with? I mean, you don't just stumble into the number of subscribers like you have.
I think with everything I've ever done in life, so I was a national level bodybuilder before that, right before the comedy thing. So anything I've ever done that I was also successful at, I jumped in with both feet. I don't dip my toe into things. If I'm going to do something, I just do it.
Yeah.
You know, so with that, and like that by far the hardest thing I've ever accomplished. So everything else just seemed kind of easy. And with the social media, it was simple. Okay, so if Peter McKinnon's like the guy in Canada, like everyone, if you watch a video about how to make videos, you know who this guy is, right? He's a guy from Toronto. And he said at the very first video I watched, if you don't post every week, then your YouTube channel is going to fail. Okay, so post every single week, get better at something every single week. And then once you get better at all the things, go back and get better again. So I figure if I get better at everything or something, one thing every week, and I never miss an upload, and my content is engaging, then I can't fail. And it kind of worked out.
Yeah. I mean, well, nice job. I mean, I talk a lot about just doing the work and showing up. And I'm glad you said about posting and doing and getting better, because I think this is my own 2 cents, but I think people get too caught up in being perfect rather than the million little tweaks you can make along the way. So talk about like your background in your lighting, for example. How long did it take you to tweak that to be the way that you wanted and be the presentation that you wanted? And I'm guessing it's still ongoing.
Yeah, it will never stop because I still get better at one thing every week. And then maybe in 3 or 4 weeks, it'll be lighting again. But if you watch my very first video, first of all, it's portrait. I didn't even do the right orientation.
Right.
So I had no idea what I was doing. And then I already had a softbox because I had a whiskey channel and a comedy channel and a bunch of other failed channels before this one. So I already had that, and I had a DSLR, and then I'm like, okay, so background lighting, and then let's get a hair light and like all this extra stuff. So I would say, I mean, this room, I've been filming like this for about a year, but then I'll just change up the lighting and how the lighting works. And normally all the lights are on, but at 8:09 Eastern Standard.
Oh man, at 8:09 his lights go out, and at 8:14 his internet goes out. Here it is.
There we go. All right, we're good.
So I was making a joke. I was like, at 8:09 the lights, at 8:14 internet.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
Well, it still looks pretty cool. Like even with the light having gone out behind you there.
Yeah. So the secret is I've got this giant softbox, right? So it's a 3-foot octagonal softbox.
Oh,
so it's
big balloon looking thing.
Exactly. So it has like the grid on it, so it spills the light perfectly, and then that way everything behind me is dark, I'm light, and it looks like dramatic. And then some aperture lights in the back that are like $100 each, and then just turn those on, and then at the hour and 30 mark, they'll turn off because they're battery operated.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's like I say, I've stressed before, I think it's incredibly valuable what just episode to episode what we learn. Even me, I mean, I was joking around about it, but I don't know. It seems like people take it more serious if there's a microphone here. So, all right, I'll try the microphone tonight. We'll see what response I get, you know?
It has like this professionality to it. I don't know if that's even a word, but
yeah, but it's nonsense. It's not, it's just a room. It's a studio room condenser. I could be playing my guitar across the street and this thing would pick it up. Like it's,
yeah, but now you look like one of the true professional podcasters.
I know, but I make jokes about these microphones all the time. Like I joke that if I have the microphone in my face, now I'm going to have to like get into slap fights with other podcasters. Like that's what we
yeah, you have to have beef now. That's part
right,
of it. Part of the optic.
Adam, you want to have some beef, man? No, I'm joking. So you said, did you say it was your promoter that suggested that you start the Reptile channel?
Yeah. So basically in comedy, like there's a showrunner, right? So there's this guy, Dylan Wildman, who ran Odd Life Entertainment. And I used to do a lot of shows. Like he had to have a room in Cambridge and one in Niagara and like all over the place. So I got mixed up with him, and the first show I ever did for him was like my best set ever. In the first year, I got in there like really soon with him. And then he offered me a headlining gig when I was not even close to a headliner yet, and that went okay. So he just kind of like strung me along and did a lot of favors for me as long as I brought people to the room. So then one day we kind of became friends, and I'm like, hey man, I'm in between jobs. I don't know what to do. What should I do? You know, is there gigs that you have for me? He's like, dude, start a YouTube channel. That's what everyone does, right? If you're a comedy guy, then you have to have a whatever. So then I just decided to do that, and the best conversation I've ever had, and I owe Dylan so much, even though I'm sure he didn't know what it was going to be, but at the same time, it was kind of like the kick in the butt that I needed to start.
That's awesome. So, and sorry if I'm putting you on the spot here. I don't mean to. Do you still have the day job, or is it all comedy and YouTube now and living that life?
So I quit my day job in November of 2021.
Okay. Congratulations, man.
Thanks.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, like if you told me when I started that I'd be able to do it, so that was 18 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, within 18 months, it became my full-time thing, which if you told me that at the beginning, I would have called you a liar. Like there's no freaking way. It took me 7 months to get monetized in the first place, and then only another year and a bit to actually realize that this could be a full-time thing. And I'm glad that I jumped when I did, because this is really difficult when you got something else tying you down.
I agree. And I haven't done it from that standpoint, but this year, and sometimes I give an up to the minute count. I haven't checked the days, but as of January 1st, 2023, I'm completely self-employed. So it's a scary leap, and I'm sure it's even scarier, but maybe even more exciting to be able to do what you're doing, you know. But that's interesting. You say it took 7 months to get to 1,000 subscribers, and the hours. Everybody forgets the hours component. So I don't know. Maybe we can dive into that if you want to. But
sure.
But then, so what? Then another under 4 years since then to get where you're at now.
Yeah. So, and I think the hours. So, like you said, it's 4,000 hours plus the 1,000 subscribers. I think it took me an extra 3 weeks to get. So it was the end of July, and I started in January, the same year. But yeah, it took that long, and then it's just like this snowball. And there was a peak, and then it kind of, you know, there's peaks and valleys with the whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was this exponential growth, especially during COVID, because no one had anything to do except for watch some bald guy in Canada run his mouth about reptiles. So that was, you know, decent for me, I guess.
Well, and I think that was before, like, you were ahead of the COVID boom. So like you were already established where people like me were trying to fight for airtime. And I don't know if it's the tags or the SEO that you use, or if it's the thumbnails, or YouTube just thinks that I like you, but like your videos and your face come up. I mean, right at the top. So
I forget who said it. I'm stealing this, and I can't remember. I think maybe it was Dave. I can't remember who, but they said if you have a movie, you get a trailer, and you get to play your trailer in front of all these other movies, and you know, in a football game, and you know, in between periods all we have as YouTubers is a thumbnail and a title, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters. That's how you bring people to the dance, and then you score by having them hit the subscribe button if your channel is good and your content is good. So I think that where I excelled was learning the hook, and I think joke writing helped me do that. You have to learn how to hook people and get them interested, and then you deliver something that, you know, you take them over here, and then really the punchline's over here. So I think I got good at the titles quickly, and then I learned how to get good at the thumbnails, especially during the first year and a half or so. And I think that is the main success. And then when you click on the video, I give you what you want. Sure, it might be, you know, tame every single reptile I filmed that video today, when realistically you can't tame every reptile, but you have to speak in absolutes. So you just got to learn the game. YouTube's a game, and you just got to learn how to play it.
Yeah. So from a process-driven standpoint, what do you think defines a good thumbnail, or what's the process you go through on your thumbnails, or do you have like 3 points you hit, or what's your thumbnail process?
So my thumbnail, I have basically a formula. So it's my face, so it's recognizable. It's my brand. You know who I am immediately. And if you don't watch the first 10, you watch the 11th one, because I want to get this bald guy off of my suggestion, right?
Right.
So it's my face. You know who I am. You know it's my video. Then the background is some sort of blurry color. It's going to be like very colorful. If I'm wearing a red shirt, it's a green background. That type of thing. Contrast. And then I'll put, you know, a snake or whatever, like some sort of crazy reptile. My face is always like this crazy like, you know, big expression. And sometimes I'll blur out the reptile that I'm holding, so it adds like anticipation. What is that he's holding, even though everyone knows it's the bearded dragon every time.
Do you have like a number of words, like limit or a target number of words that you put on your thumbnail?
It depends. Not really. It has to fit and look nice where it is.
Yeah. Very good. And then what about, like, do you have a formula on your videos? I know you said you kind of set a hook, and you have an intro too, right? You do your hook and then an intro and then the content. Is that right?
Yeah. So the intro, I think I started like maybe 8 or 9 months in. It's just a very simple, you know, this is, you know, the hook, and then this is who I am. You're watching Wickens Wicked Reptiles. Stick around. I roll. I started last summer I paid someone to make me a crazy graphic or whatever. And then I get right into the video. But the idea for me is never to clickbait. Sure, it's going to be sensationalized. But at the end of the day, if I'm talking about reptiles that are legal, it's reptiles that are illegal. I'm not going to bait you in and, you know, show you a bearded dragon in the thumbnail. And that's not
right. Well, cool. Thanks for sharing some of that. I guess I figured we would spend some time on the business model, which I thought we would do later. But hey, we're already here. So we'll circle back to the animals in a minute. I'm not looking for like dollar amounts, which wouldn't be my business. I don't think it's anybody's business. But what's the monetization model? I didn't see. So for me, for example, I've got sponsors up top and I cut little promos in my videos for them, but I don't see that in yours. What's the look, I think everybody gets it. You get 270,000 subscribers. You're getting monetized somewhere, somehow. What's the angle on that, if you don't mind sharing?
Sure. The question is, how do I make money? Right.
There you go. Yeah. Let's just call it. There you go. Yeah.
Right. So basically the way that it works is like AdSense. So for those of you who don't know, say an advertiser, Bounty paper towel, I don't know, whoever, they pay YouTube. So that's 100%. They pay $1,000. Let's just use even numbers to make it easy, right? Then whoever the channel is gets 55%. So I get $550, and YouTube keeps the other $450. But you don't even know that, right? So all you see at the end of the month or in your analytics is how much your video made, and then you do that by post-roll ads, pre-roll ads, mid-roll ads, all that. So that's AdSense. That's how you make that. And then on top of that, then you do Patreon. So my Patreon is completely open. Like you can see how much I make. I don't know. Whatever it is, you can go to the Patreon and find it if you like. And then on top of that, then there's like
I'm sorry to interrupt. Your Patreon tiers are like really accessible too. Are they like $1, $5, and $12 or something? Did I see?
$1, $5, and $15. And then last week I started a $50 and $100 tier, and those are like you get one-on-one tours and stuff like that. So you get an hour of my time, basically, is what it is. Yeah. So those are new, and I have one of each. So, and they're capped, right? There's 5 of each. So if you want to be part of it, there's 5. When someone drops out, there's a waiting list, whatever.
Yeah.
But in terms of revenue stream, and then I do have sponsors, but it's not every video, and I'm pretty specific about who I allow to sponsor me, because I'm sure you know, right? You're in the business too. Someone, hey, can I pay you, $200 for 6? It's like, no, no. But you have to look at how many views I'm getting and what that view is worth to you. And I used to work in advertising, so I have a pretty good idea what impressions are worth. So yeah, I do that as well. But there's just a lot going on in terms of revenue streams,
right?
And then appearance fees and stuff like that. But the more revenue streams, the better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, what a great problem to have. If you can't keep up with it, then maybe you hire somebody or whatever it is. But yeah, that's a good thing to have to learn quickly. So, well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. And like I said, I hope I wasn't overstepping anything there. I saw one thing you didn't mention. Sorry, why I asked. So, AdSense I'm familiar with, obviously on a smaller scale. That hasn't scaled. I don't focus on that as much as I do brand sponsors and brand alignments that I want to be aligned with, kind of thing. Like those, just as clear transparency, those translate a lot better for me. What about the Amazon links? I saw that you have a lot of those in your description. Is that I've done like 4 cents worth of business on those. And I've had those for a year and a half in my description. So maybe nobody wants what I have, but is that worthwhile for you, you find?
Yeah, honestly, I'm shocked. Like straight up, it's a couple $100 a month, and it's zero effort. They're just right there automatically. They populate automatically. I'm kind of shocked that it's any money at all.
Yeah, and for anybody, because anybody can do this, right? You don't have to be Adam Wickens or Adam Shire to do that. So as long as you sign up for the partner program, you could just click on, if you're looking at an item, you can click and it'll make you like a seller link that you'll get a bounty on or a commission or whatever from.
Yeah, and I would recommend, if anyone's watching in Canada, sign up for the US affiliate program, not the Canadian one. That's how you make money.
I would not have thought of that whatsoever. Yeah, maybe we'll get to some of the American and Canadian stuff too, which I don't know if you remember me telling you, in full transparency, for everybody, my mother's from Ontario. So the Canadian government is very kind. They transfer citizenship for 2 generations. So myself and my son, if things get real hairy down here in the crazy States, we'll head north. It's not that easy. I've thought about it before and looked into it. It's not that easy, but it's out there. So let's go back to the animals. How many, well, like, give us the scope of everything. I mean, we see all the big racks, but is that 30 animals? Is that 300 animals back there? Like, what do you have going on?
So I'm the guy who doesn't really know the exact number, but
yeah,
I would say probably about 100, 110, something like that. That's what I would guess. And it just always changes because I'm always hatching babies and I do breed reptiles and the whole thing.
Yeah. I've lost your audio, I think.
How about now?
Oh, it's bad. Okay, there it is.
There we go. And as the missing system goes off, obviously. Okay, yeah, sorry.
That's all right. So actually, that's interesting to me. So you do still actively breed? You're working different projects with different species?
Yeah. So we just hatched our first berm clutch last month. So we're working on those right now, and ball pythons and hognose snakes and basically everything that makes sense and I think I can move, I try to breed, right? If it makes sense, but I'm not like a mass breeder. I would call myself a hobby breeder still.
Sure. And where do you move most of your animals? Is that through Morph Market? You do it on your channel? What's good for you?
So Morph Market is not really a thing in Canada, unfortunately. We do not have the luxury of that type of thing. So here it's expos mostly, Kijiji, which is like the Craigslist of Canada. And then like I'm lucky that my DMs are full of, hey, will you sell me this? So it's a lot of stuff like that. Right.
Yeah. So I mean, that's another way you can leverage your subscriber base is getting that. You said Morph Market is not a thing in Canada. I thought that they had an international, or like they don't have a Canadian.
Yeah, they do, but it's not this. Like I don't know. I don't think I know a single breeder here that really relies on Morph Market. Really? I know that they just I know they just transferred ownership, and I think they're doing bigger and better things. And I know that there is one shipping company that is starting up in Canada, so that might move things too. It's just shipping things in Canada is not like the US. I've got a lot of friends in the US and shipping is easy peasy lemon squeezy, but for us here, it is a big pain in the butt. So I think that's part of it as well.
I see. Yeah. And I never thought about that. So you have to do primarily hand-to-hand transactions of whatever that looks like and however you're able to make that work.
Yeah. But the nice thing is all the big expos are in Toronto and I'm an hour away. So it's really simple to facilitate that. And even in Niagara, we have, a lot of people are really willing to, let's meet in the middle. Let's meet in Hamilton, something like that.
Yeah. And Toronto is the biggest city in Canada. That's the biggest city in Canada, right? How many? Yes. That's a massive city, right?
Yeah. 4-point-something million.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's a big city. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Toronto is huge. So it's the capital of Ontario, not the capital of Canada. I get that question a lot, but yeah.
Right. You got
Yeah, it's a huge city, and I'm very lucky to live really close to there, and very lucky also that I do not live in that city because, goodness, let me tell you about the traffic in Toronto.
Yeah, I was there once, and all I really remember, do they still have the streetcars with like the electric bar that goes up to the wire or whatever?
Yeah, that's part of the historic thing, and in Toronto, in Canada in general, we're really you know, if it was here 100 years ago, let's just keep it around. And those streetcars have been around forever. So it's kind of like an attraction almost.
Yeah, I think it was 10 or 11. I just remember the driver was like cursing his brain. I was like, listen to this guy, because he had to get out with like the hook and get the thing back on the thing. And he's like, you know, when like somebody curses in broken English, you're like, man, they're really mad. Like they learned a new language just good enough to curse with like heart and soul. You know, anyway, I made an impression of it. That's what I remember of Toronto. I don't remember anything else. I remember that guy just being furious.
Yeah, Toronto's it's really cool. It's a good sports town. I mean, their teams never win anything except for the Raptors won really recently. But yeah, I love Toronto. I love being there. I do a lot of shows there, but I am glad that I do not live there. Not like any regular human could ever afford to live in Toronto anyway. But
that's
yeah,
what I heard. I heard it's crazy expensive. So do you ever play up in or perform up in Montreal?
No, that's one of the cities that, so before COVID, I was kind of climbing the ranks to the point where I would get booked at big, like our, you know, Ottawa, Montreal, things like that. And then ever since, I've just been so busy with this. It's like, I mean, full transparency, why am I going to Montreal to make $100 when I could stay here and do a live stream? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do a lot of comedy around here. And if I could string a tour together to make it worth it, you know, Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec City, then yeah, that is the plan for the summer. But I've not been up there yet for comedy.
Yeah. That's a great, I mean, there's a lot of parallels with music there, you know, like I like to play and perform just almost as a release. I'm not saying I would do it for free because there are expenses and time with it, but performing is a great release. But yeah, there's times where you're like, I just spent a whole weekend for what I could have kind of a medium level snake. I could have just moved and, you know, put the effort in because honestly, if I work 2 days at promoing a snake, I can usually get it sold kind of thing. So like you start to wonder like what's worth it and all, but, so back to the animals, what, you said, you talked about berms, ball pythons, how many, and you probably don't have an exact number again, but how many, species are you working with these days?
Oh man. Probably 20, like a lot.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I do quite a bit, and like I just got into super dwarf retics as well, which is something that I didn't really think I'd ever get involved with, and then 5 of them were just kind of literally given to me. I had to drive to Toronto for them, but yeah. So I'm getting into new stuff kind of all the time if it makes sense. And I don't know if you've ever had Garrett Hartle on the show, but that is one of the nicest humans on the planet. So I got to go to his place, and I kind of fell in love with reticulated pythons, super dwarfs especially. So an opportunity I couldn't give up.
Yeah, we have, I'm sure that you've heard, but in Florida, we have a whole problem with
I know
ownership. And then we have another problem with FWC. And then we have a problem with berms in the Everglades. And it's all just this, we don't get to deal in those sorts of things here. And we'll see how long it takes. I do have to shout out USARK, and guys support USARK, USARK Florida as well. It's a separate entity. Donate to those guys if you can, especially if how could anybody have not? But everybody knows what's been going on. That's been just a disaster.
As a testament to that, I'm Canadian. I live in Canada, and I'm still a USARK member. So if you live in the US, what is your excuse?
Right. There's no excuse. And truly, if you have a legitimate excuse, even just there's a free membership. You don't even have to pay. You could just be on their roster to show that there's a volume of voting power and a voting base that we have. And that has power in itself. To your point, I think most of us can afford $40 for the year with no problem. But if you truly can't, still go sign up. If this is important to you, that's a way that you can help as well. So what are you breeding this year? I know you said ball pythons, berms. What are you looking forward to breeding the most right now?
Hognose snakes. So I got into Western hognose snakes a few years back. I think I bought my first one in 2015, and I like them. They're small, they're easy to move. There's so many different colors and patterns. So that's what I'm really interested in right now. And then I had my first season with Chihuahuas this year. Some frog stuff. I've got, they're still in Plexus. I've got these red-eye tree frogs that are in Plexus right now. So just trying to breed all really interesting stuff that's going to move really well. Oh, and the keel belly lizards. I forgot. I found eggs today.
Oh, yeah, cool.
It should be fun. Yeah.
That's nice to just discover stuff. So I am ignorant on a lot of what you just said. So what's in Plexus on the tree frogs?
Oh, so in Plexus it's called. So Basically what that is when the female is a bigger frog, and then the male will kind of jump on her back.
Yeah.
And it could be 2, 3, 4 days that she's like that. So basically he's trying to get her to drop the eggs. When she drops the eggs, he fertilizes the eggs. They go on the underside of a leaf or whatever. And then in a few days or weeks, they turn into tadpoles and drop into the basin below.
So when you're breeding them, do you have to find where these are on the leaf, and or are they smart enough to do this in a intelligent spot to help the survival of the offspring?
Usually, so this is my first time doing it, and most of the time for almost all tree frogs, you need a rain chamber. So they will only breed during the rainy season. So I was in Costa Rica with a bunch of guys not that long ago, and we found them all over the place at the end of the rainy season, and they're always above a stream, so they can drop in. And where they are right now is they're right over their water bowl. So I think they've got it figured out.
Oh, cool. So they do. That is cool. That's cool to see and to hear. Like capturing those moments in captivity for whatever anybody thinks about keeping reptiles. Like those are the cool moments, the little aha moments. Or to me, breeding ball pythons still feels like magic. Like I know there's going to be pieds in those eggs, but man, if it doesn't feel like magic when, hey, they pop out and there it is, you know, you're like, it feels cool. I don't know. I'm still real excited about it for sure.
But what about when you don't know what's going to pop out? I had those berms. Neither of these are visual hypos. They weren't sold to me as hypos, and then a bunch of hypos popped out.
Whoa, like, that's even better.
That's magic right there, my friend.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's funny you said that. I had that happen with that in the ball python gene, but a hype with the hypo clutch as well. But yeah, and I mean, most of what we breed, we're working on things that we don't know what will come out. Like that's the exciting part. Like I'm not breeding just normal pieds for kicks, you know, like so. But still, it just feels like, okay, I know in science class they told me this would happen, and there's 2 visuals, so they have to make a visual, but you're still like, for me, it's still like, I don't know, and it works every time, so it's exciting. You know, I don't know. I still love it. I get, I'm still amazed that there's even like a tunnel to dream through, much less progress through, to where I had the guts to quit jobs, or I could go out on the weekends and sell or play music, and that can be viable sources of income for me. So I'm happy and thankful for that stuff for sure.
I think it never gets old too, popping stuff out of eggs, or, you know, if it's boas, live birth or whatever. It never really gets old. I'm kind of new to it. I've only been doing this maybe 10 years, but at the same time, even leopard geckos, I breed a ton of leopard geckos, and I just got a big project in the summer, and now they're starting to breed and pop out, and it never gets boring. And when someone asks like, hey, what is this? Right. I've got friends who come over, and they, you know, I got a friend and he's got kids or whatever. And I'm explaining to them, okay, so mommy has blue eyes and daddy doesn't have blue eyes, but you have blue eyes. And then I explain the genes like that. And it's like this aha moment for kids or even adults who've never thought of it like that. It just, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a teacher. Right. So now I'm kind of doing that, but on the internet about reptiles.
Yeah. And I like this. I do this show both. I mean, for all the reasons anybody does a show, but one of the things I love about it is that I get to learn from people, because I don't make any bones about it. I was bored in the middle of COVID and had enough of running restaurants and dealing with customers that couldn't understand that the regulations imposed I didn't make them up. I'm not the guy. I'm not the governor. I didn't make this up. And I needed some release. And I also knew that social media was something I needed to become sort of maybe not fluent, but conversational in, because it can apply to any industry or any angle of industry. And it actually has gone way farther than I would have ever imagined it would have, not to the extent that you've experienced it, but along those lines. I mean, my consulting job now is as much about food and beverage management and leadership as it is with marketing and selling on social media, which I've gained just from doing this, you know.
Well, it doesn't matter what field you're in or what business you have. If you don't have social media, you don't exist. It used to be, if you don't have a website, you don't exist. Well, now no one goes to your website anyway. It's your social media. If you don't have an Instagram and you're not posting, you don't exist. Like, so I do a lot of real estate stuff too on the side, right? So renovating homes and stuff like that. So if I need concrete done and I go to your concrete company and I go on Google and you're first, and then you haven't posted a picture of your concrete job since 2021, I'm not doing business with you. I'm just not. So you have to be not fluent, but like you said, conversational and doesn't really matter what your niche is.
Yeah. And maybe here's like a angle for somebody not named me, but so my food and beverage really specialty is in private golf clubs. So these resorts or private clubs, it's a bunch of old dudes. Like I still get board members that are like, well, you know, we can get a billboard right up there on I-95. And I'm like, you're going to spend $80,000 and put up a billboard? I will reach for $80,000. I could reach millions. I could reach the whole population of Florida for $80,000 on social media, you know, but that's kind of the mindset. So it's still like, because of their age, it's almost like the early entry level into social media right now for that industry and that niche, you know?
Well, and it is too. And I think that you kind of have to understand how things are done now. And I think maybe for dinosaurs, like you say, it's hard to, you know, billboards and magazines. And I used to work for a print magazine. And then the guys who were in their 40s, they saw the writing on the wall and they sold it to guys in their 80s. And that is no longer a company anymore. So,
oh, funny. Yeah. That's an interesting story. Yeah. Yeah. And the flip side of it is one of the companies I'm consulting for, I made the social media pitch and he goes, no, Adam, I fully understand the power of social media. If you advertise for us right now, it's going to hurt us because we're not ready for what social media will bring us. He's like, wait, we're not done with the renovation. The brand implementation isn't done. You absolutely cannot advertise. We don't want any more than what we have, which was a new response in consulting. Don't bring business right now. I was like,
it's a good problem to have, man. I wish I had that problem.
Well, it was pretty insightful of him though. Actually, he's like, no. If we blow this up on Instagram and do things that other golf clubs aren't doing, we're not ready for it. And I was like, you kind of have a point. You're kind of right. So anyhow, it's a neat experience and neat integrating all of those social media angles that Reptiles and Proper Royals has brought for me in my life in a different profession, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think the power of social media is something that people are really starting to see. And you see, like, not to name any names, of course, but even some of the people that you have on your top banner there, and they're newer companies. And even if it's not the youngest person in charge, they think and they realize, like, this is the way things are done now. And I see how they're doing things on social media, and it is a breath of fresh air that people are finally getting it.
Absolutely. And it's how, I'll just say REDLINE specifically, it's how
that's REDLINE was able, about.
Yeah, it's how they were able to disrupt or interrupt something that wasn't all that broken to begin with, to be honest, like that we didn't know could be improved upon and could be done better. And like you say, REDLINE's presence, I see one of the others attempting to catch up, but REDLINE, I mean, this whole team REDLINE thing that they've done and Better Off Red and all that has just been phenomenal. And it's been a cool lesson for me to learn and work with Robin on that as well.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of companies where their marketing campaigns, they just kind of nail it and hit it out of the park, and they do it better than their competition. And that's it, you know, and it's just there's a new way of doing things. And I think if you get stuck in the past, well, it's kind of game over for you. You have to advance. And I think for people who maybe have been doing it and been at the top for so long, it's hard to do that. But I think the world is changing, and quicker than it ever has.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point about competition. I know it's a cliche to say competition's healthy, but one thing active competition does is forces you to get better and always evolve and always grow. And you have to look around at what's going on around you and how other people are innovating and how you can sort of innovate and iterate beyond what they're doing. And you have to use that as motivation. Because if anybody just does the very, very few companies can do the I'm me and we're never changing thing. Like, I mean, maybe what would be an example? Like maybe Coca-Cola. I mean,
well, this is what I always used to say when I would cold call people, right?
Yeah.
I would call, Orlando, Kissimmee, like it was a travel magazine, right? Well, we don't need to advertise. You don't really. Well, McDonald's advertises. So what does that tell you?
Yeah.
It's the dumbest, like, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't need to advertise. You do, even if it's not through a magazine or social media, your brand still needs to be out there. So even if you're Coca-Cola, if you slow down, guess what? Pepsi's going to catch up. There is no such thing as an untouchable.
Yeah, well, and you're right. And there's a difference between advertising and evolving your product, but they always evolve their advertising. But to your point, McDonald's is evolving. McDonald's, I predict, will be the first sort of vending machine standalone restaurant. There'll be a day when there's not a human being inside of McDonald's.
Well, they're already doing that in Texas, right? I think they opened 2 of those in Texas.
Oh, really? Totally no humans.
No humans.
I've seen there's a lot in Florida that the front of the house, as we would call it, is no humans. They won't even take your order in the dining room. They'll kindly point that there's a kiosk, but otherwise there's nobody in the dining room or up front. And on the drive-through is only just to hand you out the door. But so Texas has them totally humanless, huh?
There's 2 that they're trying. I saw this it was like one of those things on Facebook, and I read the article.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that is the future. And well, here in Canada too, we have the kiosks at the McDonald's, and if you go to the dollar store, there's no one to cash you out. It's all self-checkout. But we also jacked our minimum wage up to $16, so we can't afford to pay people to do that anymore anyway. But I think that's just the way of the future, and that's the way it's going to be.
I think it is too, and I think, aside, and the last thing I want to do is to get into politics. Well,
no, of course,
we can get that on every show. But there is a balance between people having to have a way to live and feed themselves and companies staying in business, and that pendulum swinging has always interested me, especially coming from a world where in the States, up until recently, I mean, just pre-COVID, we were still paying servers $3 an hour and telling them you're going to go make your tips. And that's as natural as it comes to an American dining culture. But I'm actually working with a Canadian point of sale system company right now, and their developers are having to redevelop their receipt system just to handle the American tip system, which is kind of funny. But anyway, like I say, we don't have to delve into that, and we're veering further and further from reptiles. But all of those business angles are what interests me, of how we can. All that evolution interests me of how we can make it, and I like to apply that back to reptiles and our businesses that we're in. So, bringing that full circle at shows, what do you bring? What is your booth? You talked about vending at shows. What does your booth look like at shows with so many different breeding projects going on?
Looks like somebody else's booth. I give my reptiles to someone else. I don't stand behind a booth. I'm not paying someone to do that. But if you put a sticker on it that says WWR, like, I am very fortunate, by the way. This is not a braggadocious thing. I'm very fortunate. If someone sees a WWR sticker on the cup, there's a lot of questions about it. So I bring my stuff and I have someone else at a different booth sell it for me, and then I give them a commission to sell it. That's basically how I do it. I go to these shows, and Canada is a smaller community, much smaller than the US, of course, right? So to have like myself and Mike Taitula and Dion and all these guys, it's like a big deal. We can't really move anyway. So to stand at a booth, I'm just talking and taking pictures. So it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. So I kind of have to do it that way, or take out a booth and pay someone to be there. But it just makes more sense to me to pay a commission to someone to do it who's already there in the first place.
Yeah. That's why I asked the question. It's like, that's a cool, I mean, again, there's another business angle. You had a problem, you found a way to solve it. And it's, again, leveraging your platform strength. And is this the same? I mean, you don't have to name names unless you want to, but is this the same person that you partner with? Or do you have a few different avenues of people that you go through, or how does that work? Or if you don't want to talk about it, that's all right too.
No, it just depends, right? Like, it depends who's there at the show and whatever the case is. And like, for example, I've got some stragglers. I've got like one Chihuahua and a bunch of Cresties and like just little knickknack stuff. So I've got a friend. So we do plant expos with reptile expos. So I've kind of helped her out with her business, and I think I'm gonna start selling through her booth now. So it's just someone, brand new. Here's a little bit of commission, and also the banner will bring people to your booth, that type of thing. So when I was smaller, I always wished that I could get a collab with somebody. So now when I see people who are really hustling, if someone asks me for a collab, I don't care if you're at 600 subscribers. I care if you're doing videos every single week and you're trying to get better. And I do that with businesses too. Snakes for the memories, right? They gave me a shirt. I didn't have to wear it. I did because they're really nice people. And if I can do anything to help someone who's nice to me. So that's the same thing with this as well. As if I can put a banner behind and you sell my stuff, but also you sell more of your stuff, then everyone's happy.
Yeah. There's been a few guys. I mentioned Jeremy Bott earlier. Dale down at Constricted Reptiles has been just phenomenal to me. Let me come vend with him and that kind of thing to show me the ropes. Steve Casino, those guys like that have looked out for me that way. And I've really thought about it. Like what would I be doing if they hadn't looked out for me, or how jaded would I be, or would my show be different, or, you know, what would it be? And having people like that is that's really fantastic. I think it's amazing that you'll do that. And like I say, at the very beginning of the show, I mean, there was no pretense or pretentiousness when you were, you know, we were just talking and hanging out, and you were kind enough to check out my stuff and to come on the show now as well too. So I very, very much appreciate that.
Well, hey, thanks for having me on too. And it's, I like doing that. And the reason that I went to the show, and I could have went to whoever runs Repticon and, hey, you know, let me in. And
right.
I paid to get in, right? I don't, you know, I paid to get in like everybody else. And I just showed up, and it was nice that people recognized me and took pictures and the whole thing. But the idea is, if I show up unannounced like that and I don't have a booth and there's no meet and greet, it's just, I just get to talk to people. And sometimes, like you had no idea you knew me, but you didn't know who I was.
Yeah. I
had like we had a genuine conversation, and it was great. And, you know, cause I think sometimes like with reptiles, it's weird. With my YouTube channel, it's weird. Cause if I can't go to a reptile expo without people taking pictures, but I can go anywhere else in the world and no one has a clue who I am.
Right.
You know? So it was kind of nice to just walk around with a little anonymous and have conversations with people who just liked reptiles and thought I was another reptile guy. So it was really cool, and I haven't been able to do that in a long time.
Yeah, and that probably fit the mold perfect, because Kissimmee is not a very big show, and like one of the appeals to me doing that show is that, you know, Dale isn't there, Steve Morphs isn't there. I love those guys, but now I could be a bigger fish in that smaller pond if they're not there, you know. And then the flip side of the coin is, when those guys are there, they attract more crowds and I can get the overflow. So it's totally cool. It's not like they're there again. But Kissimmee is one of those shows where you feel like you're a little bit of a bigger player, or the playing field's a little bit more leveled out. So just what you were just talking about, I'm not saying I got to experience that, but it was probably the perfect one for you to stroll into, because like the Orlando one's probably 2 to 3 times the size of that show, and certainly a much bigger crowd and audience that goes in there.
Well, it was a cool experience too, because that was the first US Expo I've ever been to. Like there's a Rochester one, and and there's like a Buffalo one, I think. Well, I guess Animal Con was, but that's not the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. And I would like to go to more. And Tinley, there's been something that pulled me away from Tinley the last 3 times. But
I was going to say, you haven't done Daytona or the, Arlington or Tinley or whatever?
So Daytona was 1 week before Animal Con last year.
Yeah.
And I didn't have an editor yet. I was still editing all the videos on my own. So it was really difficult to get away for that long. So I'm just like, and Dave went and he invited me. And Dave is like, I love that dude, right? Dave Kaufman. And they went and did the whole thing. And I wish that I got the opportunity to do it. And then Arlington, I was invited to. I didn't go to that one. And then I think I just got back from Asia, and then it was the Tinley one. I'm just like, I can't. Like, it's just too much. It's just too much, you know? And going through customs and stuff, it's just kind of a bigger pain, the whole thing.
Yeah, it's not as easy as it used to be. When I was growing up, man, we could just drive across the border, you know. Where are you going? Do you bring any groceries in? What are you doing? Not just going to hang out. Okay, have fun, you know, kind of deal.
What's your citizenship? Canadian? All right, get the heck in there.
Well, I never even realized that until like 5 years ago, when I was like, because my wife was like, can we go to Canada? I'm like, I don't know, maybe. You know, it's nice there in between Toronto and Montreal. You got the Thousand Islands and that little area in there. It's beautiful, you know. And anyway, so yeah, we looked into it. It's not that easy anymore. So did you end up, when we talked to Kissimmee, you said you were going to try and get out herping. You had a friend you're going to go catch up with. Did you get into any Florida wildlife while you were here?
So I kind of walked around. I didn't get up to meet up with this person, but they told me where to go. I can't remember what the lake is called, but anyway, I drove out to it. They gave me a pin. I drove out to it, and found like some rat snakes and alligators and stuff like that. And I've been kind of into plants. So like there was some colocasia that I thought was pretty cool that I saw in Madagascar, actually. So it's kind of cool. That's invasive there. And then some birds and stuff. But I didn't really get a lot of great content. And then I got rained out pretty early. So it wasn't the trip that I thought it was going to be. But at the same time, I think maybe one of the highlights was going to that small reptile show in Kissimmee. And it was something I didn't expect to do. And I just got to go. And yeah, it was fun. And it was hilarious too. So right now, I don't know, Fahrenheit, it's like 30 degrees outside right now. It's still cold, okay? It's May 2nd. It's still so cold.
Yeah.
That weekend that I left, it was warmer here than it was there. The entire point was to leave and get out of the winter. It was warmer here than it was there. So I went in the worst weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny. What were you hoping to find in Florida? Like, I know we got a fair number of crazy things, but on the other hand, like, you crossed alligators off the list, you know, the colubrids. What were you hoping to find?
Well, I wanted to find big alligators. I found baby, and a lot of them, a bunch of babies though. Some rat snakes I found and stuff, but I was hoping to find, like, I don't know, big alligators was kind of like the main thing in the wild. That would have been really cool.
Yeah.
Snapping turtles, and yeah, I was just hoping that I'd find something a little bit more interesting than a, you know, yellow rat snake, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
That's kind of the funny.
Well, rattlesnakes too, right? Pygmy rattlesnakes was like big on the list too.
Yeah.
But
yeah, actually, certain times of the year, the place I see the rattlesnakes the most is actually on the road shoulders. They're getting the last bit of, you know, like heading into the winter, they're getting the last bit of like afternoon heat out on the roads, usually on the side of the roads. I used to road bike a lot, like cycling a lot, before I was married and had a son. And I was like, I'm going to die out here on this road. So I quit doing it. But we would go, the coastal highway is called A1A, and I would ride on A1A, and the rattlesnakes, I mean, you almost, I mean, that's horrible to say, but I mean, you almost just have to hit them because you're going to swerve into traffic if you dodge them, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, it's so cool to me too, because I grew up here my entire life. Like, I literally live across the street from the house I grew up in, right? So,
oh yeah, okay.
We were looking for a house. I bought the one that was across the street. So, but here, I found a ribbon snake the other day, and so I go for a walk every week with my buddy, and he's like, man, what kind of snake is that? An anaconda? Like, no one here knows what anything is, right? Is that venomous? Is it going to hurt you? As I'm holding it up in his face. So it's not part of the culture here at all. Like, if you don't know anything about reptiles, you don't know anything, and you never see them. And all you really find here are invasive sliders and some frogs and toads, and that's kind of it. Like, we've got one lizard species in the entire province.
Yeah. I was I was on tour with some guys from Montreal, and I was their opener. So they smartly, financially, they hired a solo acoustic guitarist to open for their Irish punk band. And I'm on tour with them through Florida, and we've been through 7 or 8 cities, and we get back to Jacksonville, and we're playing at this place called the Flies Tie Irish Pub, and they're loading in, and I hear one of them just scream, just top of their lungs, bass player dude. Ah! And I'm like, oh, what happened, Andy? And I look in, and he's like scream. There's one of the little like brown anoles in his on his bass case, and he is losing it. And I'm like, what? He's like, where did it come from? Where is it? And I was like, dude, I don't know. You probably legitimately have 9 of them in here. Like, it doesn't matter, you know? And so anyhow, that was kind of a funny thing. But what was really hilarious is about 11 days later, so they dropped me off and then toured a little bit in the Northeast, get back to Montreal. About 11 days later, I get a picture from Dave in Montreal, and that little brown anole is still had made it in the van.
Yeah, I think it was so cool to find like all these lizards running around. Like, here that we got squirrels or whatever, right? But you guys have skinny squirrels, and they look so weird. But there's like a snake on a park bench, and all that. It's so crazy to me. It's like a different world. And then if you grew up in Florida, that's just, it's another anole. But
yeah,
to me, that'd be the craziest thing. If I was sitting in my backyard and there was like an anole running around, I'd be like with my phone, and it'd be the craziest thing.
We just watch them do the push-ups and the little neck thing. I mean, when we were kids, we would catch them and get them to bite our earlobe and then walk around with them like like it's so stupid, you know. But so whenever you get back, you got to go like even farther south than Orlando. You got to get down way south, and that's where, and unfortunately most of them are invasive, but there is some really cool now wildlife that is established there. And I don't, the berms and the Everglades truly are a problem, but there's a lot of really cool bright animals, and we get some of them up north on the delivery trucks, but then they're not viable here. They won't make it more than, through the winter kind of thing. But we see some cool lizards that make it up on trucks or whatever.
Yeah, well, I sort of reached out to some bigger creators that were further south, and it just didn't work out this time. But I'm friends with some of those guys, so whenever I go back next time, maybe I can do something like that. But to your point of delivery trucks, I used to work at like a flower and plant wholesaler for most of my 20s. And we get stuff from like Homestead and places like that.
Yeah.
Right? Shipped up to Canada, and I was the reptile guy even back then. So, hey, Adam, what's this thing? We found a white lip viper, which isn't native to Florida at all.
Wow.
In a thing of like, it was so cold because it was in a cooler. It was in a box of leather leaf, like the frilly stuff around a bouquet. That's where we found it. So I couldn't even believe. So, but we found it in Knowles, and there'd be like people, hey, a lizard just hatched out of my. So it was really cool to me then. And yeah, I guess you got to go further south to find stuff like that.
Yeah, there is some crazy stuff farther south for sure. You had mentioned when we were talking, you had mentioned maybe going to see Ty Park or something. You know, if you ever get down that far, that's kind of that prime area there, kind of where Lake Okeechobee is, and south you get some pretty crazy stuff down there.
Yeah, I would love to do like the Everglades and stuff. So to find a berm would be insane to me. Like berms, I think, are my favorite snake. Right? Yeah. I know that you can't have them there as pets. But those are my favorite snakes. So to find one, and we looked for them in Thailand and Indonesia. We found retics, but we couldn't find any berms. So to find one in Florida would be, I mean, not as cool as finding one in Asia, but still pretty darn cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't done an Everglades tour. I don't know, 15 years. You know, the airboat rides are cool, and there's alligators everywhere and snakes everywhere and all of that. So, but I've never come across a berm, but I haven't been out and about in that area in well over a decade for sure.
Well, I think the thing is too, so being lucky enough to have done a lot of traveling, I've been to, South America, Asia, Africa. And if I didn't have a guide, I wouldn't have found anything ever. So I think it would probably be the same in the Everglades, where you have to go with someone who knows where to look, knows what they're looking for, and that's how you find berms. I imagine if I went, I wouldn't find anything. You have to. There is something to be said for these guides. They are very, very talented all around the world.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I mean, even in the Everglades, you can't really go explore the Everglades without a guide. I mean, it's a moving river of water. Like you get off the road, you're just in swamp. You can't just like. No sane person is going to just go explore. Like you have to have an airboat or at least some sort of vessel to get through, So yeah, that you have a very good point that like you literally would have to have a guide there. Like, you'd be absolute insanity to just stroll off into the Everglades. You can't do that. That's not, you can't.
Yeah. I would love to do a tour like that too. And like a lot of these tour guides, I don't know. Have you ever been to like somewhere like looking for like herping, like a jungle or something? No,
I have not. No.
It's different. And like some people keep it a secret. Oh yeah, we find this stuff. But I mean, realistically, your guide finds it and then you make it look like you find it. That's how every documentary you've ever watched, that's how they are made. I'm sorry to break your heart, but that is how it is. And I remember Dion Reptiliadis and Mike Taitula, and we had a camera guy, and we're with these guides in Costa Rica. And these guys are like, they're screaming like this weird, I can't even make the sound, this weird sound. And then for 2 hours, they keep doing this and they keep calling back and forth with something. And we find this Cruzio hyla, which is a really cool tree frog, like one of the most beautiful fringe leg tree frogs or fringe leaf tree, whatever they call them. One of the coolest frogs I've ever seen. And there it is. For 2 hours, we're hiking up a mountain and they find this thing. We're talking like miles we walked. So these guides are insane. If you ever get the opportunity to go to Africa, Asia, wherever, and you don't hire a guide, you're crazy. Like you got to find one.
So, and what's that process? I mean, I'm guessing there's not just like a Google map to the local, tree frog guide, but maybe there is. I don't know.
So I'll be honest. I'm very lucky that because of the number of subscribers, I just get invited to stuff. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
Right? Because if it's a bigger channel, they're in your video, you get more traction. So
yeah, and it's already lined up for you. Yeah.
So with Dave, every time I've traveled with Dave, he's put it all together. The stuff that I've done with Mike and Dion, Dave put it together. So we've got a couple trips that are coming up, but usually I get invited, they do everything, and then they're like, this is how much money you owe to come on this thing to pay for guides and airfare and travel and stuff. So yeah, I'm very lucky to have those opportunities. And if you asked me when I was a kid, what do you want to do for a living? I would have told you that I wanted to talk about reptiles on the TV and be a stand-up comedian. And I'm doing both of those things. Like I'm the luckiest guy.
That is the dream, man. And I'm not being patronizing when I say congratulations. That's exactly what I would wish for every person on this planet. And part of me wants to be the encouraging factor to tell people, I haven't proven it. You have. I haven't proven it, but I believe it can be done. And part of my belief that it can be done is that, like I said earlier, I stepped away from guaranteed employment. I'm completely self-employed now, and I'm figuring it out. Like, and it's exhilarating. It's a freeing, empowering feeling, and it's amazing. And I would wish that for everybody. So I'm real pumped for you, man. I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be this, right? Whatever it is, as long as you really want it. And when I say you really want it, I mean you want it like you want to breathe, man. It can't be one of those things where, oh, I want the clout and I want Dave to invite. Like, no. I never thought about any of that. And then eventually the offers started to come. So you kind of have to pick, what do you want to do and why do you want to do it? And then you have to have a path, right? So I'm here and I want to get here, and you draw that straight line. It's going to be like this, but you have to draw that straight line and try to go that way and then overcome the obstacles. But if you don't have a clear vision of where you're going to go and how you're going to get there, I mean, you're just playing in the mud.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree on the hard part, and you got to want it comment as well. I mean, people see this show and this time, man, I've been at it since 6:45. You know, I wake up and I clean, and then I go to the day job, and then I come and prep for the show. And then tonight I'll probably have to list. I'll probably do some bookkeeping and list animals on Morph Market. And tomorrow I'll do the same. And I'm shipping and I'm picking up. And that's not complaining. I'm thrilled to do it all, because every part of it means that I'm working towards the goal. But it is a lot of work. What's your current media routine? How often do you still post? And what do you see across different platforms as far as a routine?
So I would say that I'm pretty bad at most of the platforms except for YouTube. And even that I'm still learning. But for YouTube, I post every Monday and Thursday, and I've never stopped. So I started posting on Mondays. And then I said, when I get to 100 subscribers, I'll do 2 videos a week. And that was 3 weeks later. So then,
right.
It's like I should have picked a higher number. So I've never missed an upload, and I think that's really important. But then in terms of Instagram and stuff, so I hired a company out of Ottawa, which is capital Canada, and they do they did a shorts channel for me. So they're doing a shorts channel. They take care of my Facebook now. They just started to take care of my TikTok, which in Canada is hilarious because there's no creator fund. But there's sponsorships and deals that can come from that. Sure, and then on Instagram, that's the one I'm hustling. So I brought up Diane a bunch of times. Reptilia, great channel. He's the second biggest Canadian channel, and he's going to overtake me this year because he's so good at Instagram and shorts. And that's what's really important. So I'm trying to upgrade my Instagram and try to get a little bit more traction on it. So that is the one that I'm trying to post reels at least, 3-4 times a week and post pictures and stories. And that is what I'm really focusing on this year.
And I know you said earlier you had an editor and somebody that handles other things. Is the Instagram like still your baby that you're doing? Are you working with these consultants, or what's that relationship like?
No, Instagram is a challenge for me. Like I could hire someone. I don't want to. So basically it's kind of crazy. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like talking about it out loud. So I've got 2 editors, and I have this company dealing with most of the social media. And then I have a zookeeper that I just hired a couple months ago. So right now I'm kind of free to pick, to own it, right? To manage the whole thing,
right.
Rather than do most of the grunt work. And
be the CEO. Yeah.
Right. And I think it's huge, and it allows me to get more sponsorship deals and the whole thing. And, but Instagram is one of those things I'm choosing not to pass off, even though I know I probably should, because, I pick things that are very difficult to do, and growing Instagram is more difficult than growing YouTube. And that's what I think I'm going to do. Well, now it is. It never used to be. YouTube used to be the hard one, but it seems like Instagram now is a little bit more competitive.
Funny. I find YouTube difficult, and I wouldn't say I find Instagram easy, but I find like if I produce on Instagram, I get results, and it's just a matter of me finding the time and balancing all of it, keeping all the plates spinning and what's going to get the most attention. Now, I will say I call it a coach, but basically I hired a social media consultant as well. And that person, he doesn't control any of my content, but it's, Adam, you got to be posting this much. You need this kind of content. You need this kind of strategy that you're going after. And so he kind of twice a month we get together and the results have been really, really good, relatively speaking. I mean, you say you're trying to grow your Instagram, but you do have like 37,000 followers on there. So, I mean, I'm at 5, so it's a whole, but relatively speaking to it all, I find Instagram better results, or results come easier than YouTube for me.
Well, I just think that I'm not good at it yet. YouTube took me a while to get good at, and I'm still getting better. I think Instagram, I just haven't figured it out yet, and I need to put in more effort. But then I see guys, like I'll bring up again, Dion, like he jumped from like 70 to 130,000 because he figured out reels and how to do them. And he's very talented at what he does. So I need to learn my niche and how to do that. Like my thing was top 5s for YouTube, boom, blew up. So I need to find out my thing for Instagram to be able to continue to grow on that platform.
Yeah, and I don't know, but I think the math, as you grow, the growth becomes exponential because it's that much easier to become 1% of 37,000 is a much bigger number than 1% of 5,000. So it's that many more times you have opportunity to sort of have people share something, go viral, something take off just from the audience base. So I think the bigger the channel gets, the bigger it gets exponentially quicker. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I think the growth becomes quicker as you get bigger.
Well, you're describing a snowball effect, right? So for these Canadian viewers here, but yeah, basically you roll a snowball down a hill, and the faster it goes, and the bigger it gets, and faster and bigger and faster and bigger. And I think that is the case as long as you don't take your foot off the gas. And as soon as you do, it's over. And that's why you see these channels with 300,000, 200,000, and then they just die. Oh, I'm going to take a break. Are you? RIP to your channel. It's over.
Yeah. Well, let's leave it with those words of wisdom. I know that I know that you got a lot going on, and I thank you so much for being here tonight. I've enjoyed this. I'd rather leave it with far more to cover and maybe do it again down the road in 6 months or a year. I hope I get to see you in Florida. I hope we get catch up next time that you come down. Maybe come down to Daytona and hang out or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I'll definitely be at Animal Con if you're there. So September, the middle week or the middle of September, whatever it is. I'll be there for sure.
So they're doing that. I didn't know that if they were doing that again for sure or not. That's cool. They are.
Yeah, so that's 100% thing. They're doing the creators booking rooms this month and stuff like that. So I'm not getting paid to promote them in any way, shape, or form. But I'll tell you what, the most fun I've ever had at any YouTube reptile, any event was Animal Con last year, and this year is going to be 10 times as big. So I hope to see you there. And any of the viewers, if you're in that area, like you'd be a silly goose not to go.
Well, that's as good of an endorsement as anybody could have. And I'm sorry, that's in Orlando. Is that correct, or in Daytona?
That's in Orlando, and I think it's the 17th and the 19th of September.
Yeah, I think yeah, we'll see. If I'm not out that weekend playing music, I'll be out hanging out there. Actually, that funny, that band from Montreal, that they've said that's when they'll be on the road in Florida and want me on the tour again. So we'll see. Maybe it'll all collide and we'll all be in Orlando for
Hey, that'd be perfect. Yeah, it's a fun event. So anyway, I can't wait to get back down to Florida. It's the perfect timing because it starts to get cold here during that time, so I can escape it just at the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. And hey, where can people, if they are up in your neck of the woods, or where are you traveling to, where can people see you any other time other than before then? You vending or doing appearances or anything like that?
So this weekend, if you're in the Toronto area at the International Center in Mississauga, across from the airport, Toronto International Airport, I'll be hosting I'm the official host for Canada Pet Expos. So we've got a big reptile expo this weekend on Sunday the 7th. So I'll be there. And then if you follow the Instagram, I post whenever I do run my mouth and tell my stupid jokes around the Niagara and Southern Ontario region.
Very good, man. I got to find your comedy channel. I'm going to go.
It's out there. I don't promote it because it's not as family friendly as the reptile. But if you type my name, Adam Wickens, into YouTube, it pops up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, different hats, man. I mean, as long as we're upfront about the different hats, it's cool, So, Adam, thanks so much, everybody. Adam's links are down below in the description, and he has a very convenient link tree, so they're all in one place. Just one link. That's all you got to go to. So, Adam, thanks very much for your time. You've been very kind and generous with your time, and whatever your nature towards me. I'll leave it at that. I'm thankful is what I'm trying to say.
Well, hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And this has been fun. I appreciate you having me on.
Cool. My pleasure. Stick around in the green room for just a second. We'll catch up in just a second. Everybody else next week, Robbie Jensen will be on same place, same time. Thank you all as always. And see you next time. Cheers.